The crackle and hum of a tube TV is a familiar and comforting sound to people the world over. From the days of Edward R. Murrow and Lucille Ball to the age of Netflix, television has become a means to both illuminate and sedate. So whether you are alarmed by or addicted to television, you've come to the right place. This is the Fool's Lantern Podcast, a bi-weekly program dedicated to dissecting and disseminating news, trends, and any other television topic we can shoehorn in. You'll be listening to the sultry tones of these three media junkies.
Hi, I'm Tank.
I'm Shanna.
I'm Patrick.
And I'm Mark. Here on the Fool's Lantern Podcast, we cover the latest television news programs, dissect tropes, review acclaimed television series, and watch not-so-acclaimed ones. So stay tuned.
The Fool's Lantern, Episode 1, Chekhov's Gun.
Howdy, y'all! You're listening to the Fool's Lantern Podcast, where we discuss the current, and the classic TV, and force ourselves to watch the shows we hate.
The ocean current.
Stupid shows.
You can check us out on Twitter at Fool's Lantern and email us at foolslanternpodcast@gmail.com. Please subscribe to and rate us on iTunes as soon as Patrick gets us up on there. And finally, you can find all of our episodes and more on fngaming.net. So what have you been watching, Stitch?
I have been watching pretty much the only thing I've been watching lately has been a show called The Devil's Part-Timer. It is an interesting show. It is an interesting show, anime about basically the devil going forward in time and becoming just basically a part-time like fry cook in modern Japan. So,
Do they not need a devil in the future?
clearly
I
they
thought
did.
it was an alternate realm.
Is it alternate? I don't know.
I don't think it's an alternate timeline.
I thought he was just like basically thrown into the future. But anyway, it's very good, and I'm just ready to finish that up and watch something maybe a little more related to the podcast because it seems to be only a season.
Right on. What about you, Tank?
I started watching The Blacklist, finally. Got around to
Nice.
that. I'm like 3 episodes in, and I'm kind of like, I don't know. I don't like it yet. Everyone likes it, so I figure I'll stick with it a bit and see.
Yeah, people seem to be talking about it.
See if this gets anywhere. But so far, it's a little obvious, a little little cliche. Meh.
Right.
Also watched Black Mirror.
Ooh.
Nice.
Went through all that. The first season was really good.
Yes, it was.
I thought the second season was less so.
Yeah, I think the first episode of the second season was pretty good, and
Is that
then
the
it
one with
went
the
downhill.
Android?
Yeah.
That's what I'm thinking of anyway.
Yeah.
You didn't like
that
it?
one was pretty good.
It wasn't as good as the first season, obviously.
Yeah, I felt like the second season they were trying to be Black Mirror too hard.
Right.
Like, oh, people expect this from our brand. Let's give them some
Starts
more.
to become self-parody.
Right. Then also I've been continuing on my weird and lonely road down the WWE.
Oh,
Nice.
I guess
Watched the Royal Rumble and NXT and other such wonderful programming.
I suppose I've been watching that as well. It seems bizarre that actually might be a fit for something that we'd put on the podcast.
Yeah, there's
No, you talk about anything you watched.
some storylines happening.
Yeah. Well, I actually just started watching The Arrow, and
It's a
in
good
like
show.
the past week, I've watched episodes 1 through 10. I just ended on Burned. This episode was about a firefighter who got burned and was presumed dead, who
That's
came
right.
back to kill other firefighters.
Right.
The show, I'm not blown away by
Yeah.
the episode-to-episode storyline, but
Right.
I was impressed that within 1 or 2 episodes, I really liked the characters.
Yeah.
They're really likable, unlike some shows nowadays.
Definitely. I think
So-
it picks up a lot going forward, especially into season 2 when
Right.
they stop trying to be Christopher Nolan
Mm-hmm.
and go, oh, wait a minute, this is a comic book.
Yeah,
Let's just embrace that.
exactly. So I'm looking forward to that. What about you, Shanna?
I've been watching quite a few shows. This week, though, I watched Girls Season 4, Episode 3 called Female Author. And, like always, it's more about how people handle their situations and the situations themselves. So the plot isn't really what drives the show, it's the characters.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm actually loving the direction they're going this season. I've also watched the season finale of Gallivant, which I enjoyed a lot. I know it's not the most like serious, like really good show I've ever seen, but it's casual entertainment, and I enjoyed it a lot.
I was not blown away by it. The music was good.
Well, and actually, I had this like notion that those 8 episodes would be like some sort of story, condensed like a story complete. But there's so many loose threads hanging at the series finale.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so they clearly want a season 2.
I mean, the big draw of that show was mainly just the music,
The
right?
music, yeah.
Yeah.
So
It's
I-
a
if
mini
you-
series, right?
Yeah, it's only 8 episodes per season, so.
which I couldn't stand the music of the first episode, but that's also because I'm not a big musical guy.
Dude, I love musicals, so that's probably why I like it so much.
Yep. I've also watched the latest episodes of Brooklyn Nine-Nine, season 2, episode 14, The Defense Rests.
I've
Where
not seen
he-
any of that show yet.
It's a pretty good show. It took me a while to really get into it, but now that I'm into it, it's good. I'm glad that they didn't go down the route of it just being a bunch of inept cops.
Right.
They're actually kind of good at their jobs. They're just goofy,
That's good. That was
lovable characters.
kind of what I was afraid of, that it was just going to be like a bad SNL skit writ large.
Right.
There's only 2 seasons. So
It's
they
pretty
got-
good. It takes some time to find its legs. What were you going to say, Stitch?
I said there's only 2 seasons, so they got plenty of time probably to ruin it. So,
Oh, yeah.
but
Yeah.
Give
yeah,
anything enough time.
yeah,
enough
like
rope.
I was like burning through that show because I liked it so much, and for me to burn through it says a lot. It's very
Yeah.
entertaining. Even the bad episodes are decent.
Yep.
Hmm.
Also, Parks and Rec, season 7, episode 7, Donna and Joe. Long-running character Donna got married to Joe, who's played by...
Keegan-Michael Key, and I love him. I think he's
It's a good episode. It continues to be a really... It's a series with a lot of heart. That's all I can say
Yeah.
about
Yeah.
that.
I liked a lot what I saw, but I stopped watching, like, I think season 4.
Right. I think there were some lulls in season 4.
Yeah.
But it's continued to be good, and I think it'll be a good final season. And I know Shanna and I both watched Mindy Project. I'm going to let her take this one.
The most recent episode we watched was No More Mr. Noish Guy. And this is a season where Mindy's kind of trying to balance her dreams versus dealing with a relationship. And so there's a lot of tension there. But I think it's a great episode. The only thing I'm worried about is they kind of... they manufactured a reason for one of my favorite characters to leave. So I'm a little bit worried for the future episodes. But
actually, that transitions into... I also watched the Adam Pally Late Show.
That was good.
It was very bizarre. So they're doing this thing where the Late Late Show doesn't have a host right now, so they're just bringing in guest hosts every
Right.
episode. And his episode took place during the New York snowstorm.
Oh.
So none of his planned guests arrived, and he had to just make do with what he had.
But that's the spirit of the Late Late Show.
Right.
Like flying by the seat of your pants
Yes.
in a creepy basement with
Right.
purple windows.
Exactly. And he did it fantastically.
Yeah. Ben Schwartz was amazing as his
He
little
riffed-
announcer guy, too.
Yeah, and he riffed on how like the teleprompter guy hates him, and he heard one of the cameramen actually like go out of boredom during the show. It was really good, really awkward in like a fantastic way,
It's train wreck.
and
Fun
it
to
made me
watch.
all the more sad that Adam Pally's character is possibly leaving the Mindy Project.
Yeah.
I
It's
don't know if you wanted to spoil that, but I'm going to.
Yeah, I wasn't going to say specifically who was leaving, but that's fine.
And also, I watched some of the nightly show, the new thing that's taking the place of the Colbert Report, and it's pretty good. I enjoy it. It's definitely still finding its legs. But that's all I've been watching. Anything else from you guys?
No. I watched the last episode of the Colbert Report finally. That was
Oh,
good.
yeah?
It was pretty good.
I like
wasn't it?
I don't normally like just watch the whole show. I watch snippets that show up.
Mhm.
Oh, here's a good bit. So it's kind of. I guess I didn't realize that it was such a short format.
Right.
But it was good. I liked it a lot. Watched the last episode of Craig Ferguson's time in the Late Late Show too, and that was good.
Pretty
I
good.
haven't seen that one.
I've got like weird like personal reasons for liking Craig Ferguson a lot. 'Cause he was like the first show I saw on TV when I moved to Kansas when I was like 11.
Oh.
So it was like, moving house, and so you're allowed to stay up later because everything's all disorganized.
Yeah.
I was just in the basement, turned on the TV, and there was Craig Ferguson telling this story about being in a play that was fantastic. So I've always had that, like, oh, here's something cool that I found while I was here in this weird new place where I know nobody. So
I guess I also watched a few episodes of Workaholic.
Oh, yeah, me too.
The most recent season.
The most recent or the one that's on
Hulu.
just came onto Hulu?
No, it is my roommate had it on his DVR, so I believe it was the most recent. I'm not 100% sure, but if it's on, I'll watch it. I'm not really seeking that show out as much. I don't know why, because it seems like my kind of show, but like the episodes I watch are real funny. Like they went back from their being good on season 1, bad in season 2. Now they feel like they're kind of back to where it was.
Yeah, they did go off the rails in season 2.
Yeah,
but all right. Now that we've talked about what we've been watching, it's time for news.
Okay, I've got some news for you. According to Variety, ABC will be reviving BattleBots. Do you guys remember that show?
I do remember that show.
I'm glad they're reviving
good part of
BattleBots.
my middle school and high school times.
Yeah, it originally aired on Comedy Central from 2000 to 2002, and this 6-episode series will feature homemade robots battling against each other in a single elimination tournament format. I'm
going to offend everybody by saying, meh.
I'm so offended.
Let me tell you about BattleBots. Man, great concept, robots fighting each other.
Right.
But you know what it ended up being every single time? Oh, look, that guy's got a flamethrower on his BattleBot.
Right.
Fire's going to hurt metal.
Right.
Oh, look, that guy's got a chainsaw on his BattleBot. I bet it has enough torque to cut through metal.
Yeah.
Oh, that guy has a hammer on his BattleBot. I bet that can break metal. And every single episode, it always ended up being that one robot that had the little wedge.
Little flipper
that
thing?
could just flip the
Right.
other ones over. He would win every time.
Well, I think now that it's on a network, though, it's on ABC, so maybe you'll get some more like advanced robots. The only thing I'm nervous about is that reality show format where it's like, oh, the creator's backstory, and we don't have enough time to build this robot. And that's what I'm a little bit nervous about.
That was I remember they've done that before, like that Extreme Makeover Home Edition. Like their whole first season, they were trying to put all this reality show stuff in there. And looks like all the designers are like, you're stepping on my project. You're stepping on my project. You were in my tent. It's just like everyone knows that stuff is staged. Though it's just hokey.
All right, what else you got?
Yeah. Ben Stevenson, the drama chief at BBC, looks to move to the U.S. So he's been the head of drama at BBC since 2008. And has commissioned Call the Midwife, Sherlock, Wolf Hall, Peaky Blinders, The Honorable Woman, and the upcoming adaptation of War and Peace.
I've heard of 2 of those and that book, War and Peace.
Yeah.
That is a really good book, War and Peace.
Yeah. And he's now planning to shift to the U.S. According to press reports, J.J. Abrams' production company Bad Robot and Starz have been suggested as potential targets. So we'll see. I like, BBC. We'll see if they can have a nice little relationship with the U.S. and make some good drama.
Sure.
So Peaky Blinders wasn't actually,
It's
commissioned by Netflix?
No, it's Netflix, I think. Yeah, that one is a Netflix original.
Well, Netflix has a lot of interesting arrangements with networks.
Yeah, like
they say they're like co-producers of The Fall, and I don't think they are on that either. They didn't make that. I think they just have some kind of expensive licensing deal.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
We'll find out, and we'll post the results of this question on our website
as soon as we remember.
fngaming.net.
All right. So the next story I have here is Netflix orders music drama The Get Down from Baz Luhrmann. And, I have my weakness for musicals, so I'm very excited about this. Baz Luhrmann has been working on this show for 10 years, and he specifically wants to work with Netflix because they're commercial-free, and they give creatives a lot of room to develop their own stories in creative ways. It'll take place in New York City in the late 1970s during the explosion of hip-hop, punk, and other innovative music. But that also coincides with a surge in crime, violence, and urban decay.
Right.
So
As
that's
it
what
does.
That could be pretty interesting.
That's what the tension is there.
I saw the trailer for that, and it wasn't very descriptive. It didn't tell me anything.
Yeah,
but
it was just
it
a
could
bunch
be
of
really
clips.
cool.
Yeah.
Quick question that
Yes.
might be relevant. Do you have any other Netflix news in there?
No.
It's maybe about a rumored Legend of Zelda.
No, I didn't hear
Oh, yeah,
about
that's-
this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Say
So
it up.
apparently, the rumor is that Nintendo's partnering with Netflix to have a Legend of Zelda either show or movie or something, and then it's supposed to be live action. But
Live action. Ooh.
Yeah, that'll be weird.
It'll be weird, and if they give
Yeah.
Link a voice, it's going to be real weird.
Yeah, I don't know how
It'll
I
be
feel
equally
about
weird
that.
if he never says anything for the entire series.
That's true. It's kind of a damned if you do, damned if you don't
Right.
situation.
Yeah, it's one of those things where I don't think there's a lot of Nintendo things that transfer, unless it's like Fire Emblem or like an anime. But they're
I think they
anime
should just
games.
embrace the old cartoon.
Oh, God.
Well,
Oh.
excuse me, princess.
Where Link is just like an asshole.
Yeah.
I can't wait to
That's
kill those
terrible.
Dodongos.
Oh, boy, good stuff.
All right, my next story is HBO orders a comedy pilot from The Nightly Show's Larry Wilmore and Issa Rae. I know you've watched a lot of The Nightly Show.
Yeah.
But yeah, they've given the green light to a pilot called Insecure, and it's starring Rae, and she's famous for having a YouTube series called The Misadventures of Awkward Black Girl, which has garnered over 180,000 subscribers and 20 million views on YouTube. I watched
Wow.
a little bit of it,
Mm-hmm.
and the production quality is terrible because it's like this web series, but I feel
Right.
like if they had enough money in HBO's production quality, it could be pretty good.
There's a good spark there.
Yeah, I could see it.
I think the big thing for something like that is, like, if you're going to focus on like a YouTube channel, is you got to focus on the writing more than anything else, because it's like if we were to make a show, we don't have the money to have even a nice camera. It'd probably be shot on a cell phone, or I guess Mark has a DSLR. But even then, it's like we don't know anything.
It won't be HBO.
Yeah, it's not gonna be like.
I'm putting you on the spot a little bit, but
That's
does
fine.
it say if it's being produced by Busboy Productions, who does
Doesn't
Daily
say.
Show and Nightly Show?
Well, Larry Wilmore was working on this deal before he got the Nightly Show.
Okay.
So I don't know if it's with the same sort of company. It's a scripted 30-minute comedy. So
Right.
I think it's awesome that nowadays we have YouTube and stuff like that to get like maybe people who just want to make some goofy show or whatever, and then it
Yeah.
gets actually picked up. Like think about like back in the '90s, something like this happening. It's like that would never happen.
You had to sell your soul to Los Angeles to get that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then a bunch of like good maybe some good ideas or good writing would just be swept on the rug because the executives didn't know any better. But when you can say, wait, well, I have
Well, there was a way. Back in the day, you had to write scripts for other shows and show what you could do.
yeah.
But getting your foot in the door is always hard. But at
Yeah.
least now with YouTube, when you have something good and you self-publish yourself on YouTube, well, I have this 20 million views right here.
Yeah.
So you can go ahead and tell me that this will never sell. But
Right. It's
I've got a fan base.
democratization of media.
yeah, and I think
Anyway.
it's just awesome.
Last story. J.K. Rowling's HBO miniseries The Casual Vacancy gets premiere date. So HBO has confirmed that J.K. Rowling's miniseries will air this spring. It's a 3-part television adaptation of Rowling's novel, and it will be airing on BBC One on February 15th, but it won't debut on HBO until April 29th. It's about a seemingly idyllic English village of Pagford, which is rocked by conflict between rich versus poor, teens versus parents, etc.
And magic, right? Is there magic in
I
it?
don't think there's any Harry Potter
Oh.
magic in there. But yeah, I haven't read the book, but I
I'm
am
out.
excited. Yeah. Anyway, that's the news.
All right. Lester Nygaard is a regular Rodney Dangerfield. That's right. He gets no respect from his wife or his brother or from the owner of a local trucking company. For our inaugural showcase, we are watching the 2014 FX television series Fargo. Every episode of The Fool's Lantern will cover 2 episodes, spoilers and all. So let's get started.
You are now entering a spoiler-free fire zone.
That's right. So this is based on the original movie Fargo,
With
which
Steve
came
Buscemi.
out. Correct. Steve Buscemi and
William H. Macy.
William H. Macy.
Mm-hmm.
This was created by Noah Hawley. I don't know if you know who that is.
Nope.
He's a former writer, producer for Bones. He created The Unusuals and My Generation. He also happens to have a twin brother named Alexi, who writes for The Following.
Ah.
Oh my.
So he's got a bit of a history in television.
Mm.
The first 2 episodes were directed by Adam Bernstein, who earned an Emmy nomination for directing the 30 Rock episode The Breakup in 2007. He's also directed for, this is a shortened list. There's a ton of stuff on his list, but he's directed for Scrubs, Oz, Californication, Shameless, and Breaking Bad.
I like Shameless.
Oh yeah, Shameless,
You like
the
the
American version.
BBC
though,
one,
right?
or the,
I haven't watched the BBC version.
they're
watched-
somewhat different.
Yeah.
Once you watch one, you hate the other.
Right.
There's
Yeah,
no going
yeah,
back.
Definitely.
The BBC one was
I
good.
just like anything with William H. Macy in it. Is kind of
Yeah,
the key.
he's awesome.
Right.
the BBC one was good for about 2 seasons, and then you kind of realize you're kind of tired of this.
So Fargo was nominated for 18 Emmys.
Wow.
It won for Outstanding Miniseries.
That's 18 more Emmys than Community.
Yeah, that's true. That's
You're
disappointing.
robbed.
I'm actually a little upset now. Anyone else have any meta information they want to share about it?
I've been to Bemidji, Minnesota, where it's based out of, because
Hey.
I used to live up there.
Would you
Good
say
for
it's
you.
accurate?
I can't remember.
Lots of murders.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just a small Minnesota town, so I mean, it could have been anything.
Right.
I mean, it's in like from being from Minnesota, it's kind of like the accents didn't bother me. So any people from Minnesota who get bothered by
Right.
over exaggerated Minnesota accents, it's just like the
Actually,
movie.
I watched the
Commentary.
commentary, and the creator said that he tried to de-emphasize the accents as compared to the movie. I'm sure it's still exaggerated compared to what you would expect
It's
as a native from Minnesota.
it's funny for me because you know, if you're in southern Minnesota, you don't hear the accent very much, but in northern Minnesota, I know a lot of people up there who hate Fargo because they don't like their accents being overdone like that. It's funny to me.
So we watched 2 episodes, the first 2 episodes of Fargo. We started with episode 1, The Crocodile's Dilemma. What happened in that episode, Stitch?
Basically, since I'm terrible at actually remembering the proper details of everything, I'm just going to read from Wikipedia. Lorne Malvo crashes a car in a wintry rural highway outside Bemidji, Minnesota. A nearly naked man jumps from a pop trunk and bolts into the wood.
How long is this?
This is a really long synopsis. I bet Tank could do it faster.
Yeah, I bet you Tank is better
Okay.
at this than me.
All right. Well, yeah. So it starts off with Steve Buscemi is driving a car down the road,
By himself.
right? And then he crashes the car. There's a deer, crashes the car, and a guy who might be Steve Buscemi jumps out of the back. Basically, I think everybody in the show might have been Steve Buscemi. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
That's really the
I did
only
find that
thing
strange.
I remember about Fargo is just the fact that everybody was Steve Buscemi.
Right. The
It's
green
weird.
screens were seamless.
Very well done. Very well done. Anywho, so he hits this car. The guy runs off into the woods. And then Lester has a wife who doesn't like him at all. And
Yeah.
they have some tense words about his brother, who's much more successful than him. And he then meets his high school bully, who beats him up in front of his sons, who are
Nice.
Airheaded.
they're not
Oh,
the most
fish.
intellectually developed individuals in Minnesota.
Right.
I relate to them.
I didn't say it.
So then, yeah, he gets beat up. He goes to the hospital where he has a Fago that he can't drink, and he gives it to the fellow who was driving the car before.
Yeah.
They have a conversation that ends up with this guy manipulating Lester into saying he wants him, Billy Bob Thornton / Steve Buscemi,
Right.
to kill the bully, Scott Hess, Sam Hess. Scott
And it's some
Sam Hess.
Yeah, Sam Hess.
So that's kind of what kicks the whole thing off. Without kind of going, I don't know if you want to do a blow by blow of the entire episode.
Yeah,
But, that's basically what starts the ball rolling here.
Right.
Is Lester is bullied and put down and stressed and works a terrible insurance job.
And then there's you could maybe call it Chekhov's washing machine.
Chekhov's washing machine and Chekhov's fish poster.
Yes.
Yeah, that's the beginning here.
Yeah. And to me, it's not even so much that Lester really wanted Billy Bob Thornton's character to kill his wife. He's very unsure about it because he's hit rock bottom, and he wants it. He wants to do it, but he's so mild mannered that where he is conflicted. He's just like, this is not what I do.
He's clearly bottled up.
Yeah.
He's ready to blow, I think, in a way.
Right, and I kind of, I mean, I got the feeling too that he didn't want him to kill him. He just kind of
wanted something to happen.
He wanted to stop being on the receiving end.
Yeah.
You know, he wanted to get his turn.
You want to be the top.
And this guy, who, as we see throughout both of these episodes, I don't think they said his name at any point in either of these episodes yet. Duluth, he calls himself at one point.
Yeah, I know
Steve
his name is
Buscemi's Billy
Malvo,
Bob
just-
Thornton character.
Oh, Lorne Malvo.
Okay.
But that's only because I
Steve
read it on
Buscemi as
IMDb.
Billy Bob Thornton as Lorne Malvo.
Mhm.
And he has mob connections, it appears.
Yeah, some kind of organized crime connections, but also his passion seems to be spreading discord and discontent.
Yeah.
Like every opportunity, even just something petty, like telling a janitor that he missed a spot so that
Yeah,
he has to mop the
exactly.
floor again. He just wants everyone to be
And he gets
unhappy.
he gets a room at a motel, and he starts pitting the lobby boy against the
right,
person
the
who runs
owner, and just not a great gentleman.
No, not at all. And he kind of gets his fingers in there and really forces Lester to dwell
Right.
on something that he wants to just forget, and that's what causes him to blow up, I think.
Right,
And he's got that rage built up when he goes home and tries to fix his washing machine.
right.
Ends up, I mean,
'Cause that
this is a
moment,
spoiler
yeah.
cast.
Yes,
He kills his wife because she's yelling at him, and he's had the worst day ever.
I think my notes at that point is like 5-6 lines of just like what.
So do you know?
I was expecting a Scrubs daydream thing there, where it's like he beats her in the face with a hammer, and then
Yeah.
all of a sudden he's just like, and she's still yelling at him.
Right. Yeah. Like he imagined it and it didn't happen.
That was a very effective, very surprising moment. That I mean, they built the tension up perfectly, but you've just kind of seen him so far as just such a passive kind of character that you're like,
Right.
oh, he's just gonna, and then he's just nope, he beats her in the head with a hammer and then does it again multiple times.
Do you guys know what the title of the episode is referring to?
No.
The Crocodile's Dilemma.
I do not know.
So the Crocodile's Dilemma is also called the Crocodile's Paradox. The idea is that a crocodile steals a child from his father and then goes to the father and says, the child will be returned to you if you can correctly predict whether I will return the child. So if you guess yes, the crocodile can do whatever he wants, and the logic holds up. But if you guess no, then no matter what the crocodile does, it breaks the logical formula. So if you say no, you won't return the child, then you've guessed correctly, and he has to return it. But he can't return it because then he wouldn't have guessed correctly, and it's a paradox in that way.
I know I'm nitpicking a metaphor here, but would kidnappers really be bound by the laws of a logical fallacy?
No, obviously not. It's just it's more of a thought experiment.
Right,
than anything.
right.
It's a cool title for an episode.
It is. Yeah, I mean, and that's and it's kind of that what bird in the hand. Thing.
Right. Bird in the hand is worth twice in the bush.
That's
No,
what
it's
we're going
the
Bird in the hand. Why you
can't
holding a
remember
bird in the
who's-
hand?
who it's from. We can edit that bit out.
Sure.
Well, where do you
Little-
see that crocodile? Where do you see it? In
Yeah,
there?
I don't actually see where.
I think it's
It
kind
comes
of.
up.
I think it's more representative, I guess, of the Lorne Malvo character and the way he's
Right, kind of the way
he's
he
putting
views
people into situations where no matter what, they're going to fall into his plan.
Exactly
He's-
the way he
he's
does
putting
in the
them in no-win
hospital
situations.
with Lester,
Right.
and then again later at the very end of the episode when he encounters Officer Gus Grimley, played by Colin Hanks, and gives him this threat that's not a threat at all, but it's clearly a threat. And you just kind of it's. I guess in a way it's how you have to put yourself in the mind of this deranged killer
Yeah.
and predict what he's actually going to do.
Right.
So maybe in that sense, that's where the title comes from. So did you guys like the episode?
I liked it a lot personally. I like.
I'll talk
Get
about it in a
out.
second.
Oh, go ahead.
You go ahead.
Okay, for me, so for some reason, I'm always kind of, I don't know why, I'm always kind of like excited whenever Malvo's on the screen, like just because I want to see how he's gonna like manipulate this person, see how he does it, because it's so well done. And for me, like I've been in towns like that, so I've been in Minnesota where basically everyone knows each other. You got that Minnesota nice kind of feeling going. So when somebody comes and they're just manipulative and like, threatening in a not necessarily physical way, it's just for foreboding like that, where it could totally throw a person like that off, or they've always thought, oh well, this is kind of the way my life is, yada yada yada. Then somebody comes along and completely disrupts that. So that's why for me, like, kind of see him go and talk to these small town people, it just kind of twists their minds in ways that they were never expecting, and so it's just easy for him. It's just like shooting fish in a barrel.
They're not used to how blunt and straightforward he is,
right?
Versus being nice,
right? Basically,
and kind
just
of backing down.
All but saying to a guy, "I'm gonna murder you. Goodbye now."
Exactly. Now I know Shanna didn't like it as much.
Yeah, I just think the characters were painted with such broad strokes. It was incredibly cartoonish. Like his wife Pearl, and I wrote down a few things that she said to him. You know, first thing right off the bat, she jokes that she married the wrong Nygaard. You know, gets on him for his sales numbers, gets on him for his tie, is constantly bringing up his brother's success. Okay, we get it. All right, we get it. And then, like, it just keeps going on and on.
Yeah, I picked up on that as well, that it seems significantly more heavy-handed with telling us this character is this way.
Right.
For instance, even Malvo, who is very interesting to watch. I enjoy his acting, but he is a sociopath.
Right.
Versus in the movie, we're dealing with two kidnappers who are self-centered. They're just motivated by wanting to make some money.
Yeah.
Right.
Well,
I think maybe part of it is because they have 45 minutes to get this guy that we've just met to murder his wife and have it make some sort of sense.
Well, but it's crazy. Like, Sam Hess is a straight-up cartoon villain. Like, when he sees him on the street, first he calls him, "Oh, you're a black man." He calls him the N-word. He gloats with his idiot sons, like, about his trucking company success. He brags that he put Lester in an oil drum and rolled him into the street. He brags about how his high school girlfriend, which is now his wife, gave him a hand job.
Hess's high school. Oh,
no.
Sorry.
Lester's
right.
wife now gave Sam Hess a hand job in high school.
Right.
And as if that isn't enough to establish that this guy is a total bully, he then goes into a story about, "Oh, I wrote my name in Sharpie on my knuckles and punched him."
So did he write it in reverse on his knuckles and then punch him?
Either way,
I doubt he thought that far ahead.
Right.
Wow, this guy has had no personal growth in 40 years.
Mm-hmm.
And, I think I would buy into it more if it was more of a subtle bullying.
Sure, and you want that subtlety because that's what the movie had.
Yeah, I'm too tied up in Fargo.
And I was with you, but then I read that this is actually supposed to take place in the same fictional universe as the movie Fargo. So it's not like a thematic recreation of Fargo. It's actually literally the same universe.
But I don't even believe that he would be in that universe. I mean, he calls him a pencil dick, a rat face. This is all within like 5 minutes that he's just like the most horrible person. It's like there's no subtlety at all.
But then you got to realize that it's one of those kind of like they're catching up after the last time they probably saw each other was in high school, where he was a big bully. He didn't change because
he's incredibly successful. So did he have to change?
Yeah, and it's the whole thing of like we've all moved around. We know what it's like to kind of be fish out of water, so we kind of have to be, you have to know how to deal with humans, like, and try to get friends because that's how it happens. But this guy has been in the same town his entire life, so it's kind of like he's never had that outside experience. So then he was a bully then, he's a bully now, and he's a bully to everybody still, but he's successful. So like Mark said, why does he have to change?
I don't know. I think it could have been done in a more believable way. And if those two characters aren't enough, there's also Lester's brother Chaz, who literally tells Lester that he says, "Oh, all the guys at work, they talk about how much they look up to their brothers." Bullshit, first of all. I don't talk to anyone at work like that. And then second of all, he says, "Sometimes I tell them you're dead."
Which is insane.
That's
especially
insane.
with the small town aspect.
It's like I could buy into it if it was just a little less over the top.
Right.
They're just total characters.
My hope is, because I agree with you, I agree that it seems very heavy-handed. My hope is it's just first episode blues. They're just trying to get all the information.
They've got a lot of pieces to put on the board.
Right. Yeah. I'm hoping that they just thought we need to get this across and make sure everyone understands, and then we can get into the subtle stuff later on in the series. So I'm hopeful, but I do agree with you.
it's just funny to me because like you got like maybe I'm looking into this too much personally, and I'm sorry if I'm kind of overdoing this, but it's like to me like my dad, my uncle,
your dad would say, I sometimes tell people at work that you're dead.
Not that. I mean, yeah, that's pushing it. But I'm saying like what.
Go ahead.
What a lot of people don't understand about like a lot of the people who are from Minnesota, they may seem very nice. They're hyper competitive. Until you're around them enough, you don't understand like just how bad they can be.
Well, and I think the show did a great job of portraying Minnesotan anger, which is the "watch your feet, please." Going into like
great.
This like sort of.
It's one of my quotes of the episode.
I think that's episode 2.
Yeah,
it is. Or quotes of the week, I guess.
Yeah.
But,
right.
Yeah. I guess, and with the Hess, the bully's kind of attitude, it's like growing up in a small town too. Those guys who peaked in high school.
Yeah.
Like socially, that was when they were on top of the mountain, and they've just like, oh, that worked out for me then. And they're parents and taking their kids to school and still acting, the same way they did back then. So I guess, like for me, that was kind of like I've experienced that frustration of meeting people like, oh, you're still the small-minded person you were all that time ago because you've never had any reason to do anything else.
For me, I kind of like the kind of cartoonish, obvious characters like that because number one, you can dig into them a little bit more. And you kind of know what to expect when they come up. So for me personally, I kind of like that because I know like, okay, so this guy's the dick, or this guy's the bully, this guy is the sociopath, or this guy is the meek person. I understand that for first episode, and it's awesome. That's why like for me, it's like so captivating.
Well,
because
and I wanted to talk about Lauren Malvo a little bit. I know that you were excited to see him on the screen, but like, I guess I'm just coming from the Fargo movie mindset, where chaos happened as a result of incompetence or circumstance. This guy is actively looking to create chaos wherever he goes, so it's a different vibe. And I just need to get over that. I think I need to get over the Fargo movie mindset.
Yeah.
There are a lot of things that I think are positive about the show.
I kind of thought too. I was like, I wonder if I should watch Fargo and see. But I'm also I decided that I don't really want to because this is obviously setting out to be its own unique thing.
Have you seen Fargo in the past?
I have.
Okay,
I saw it a long
good.
time, like 4 or 5 years ago.
Well, and the cinematography, the music.
Yeah, that's all spot on.
That is all spot on. So I think the subtlety of characters where it just kind of lost me.
And I found, I agree with you, but I felt like once they started showing the police officers, those characters have a lot more depth to them.
Definitely.
Yeah. Other than Bob Odenkirk, who's a complete oaf. But he does
I
it so
love
well.
him. Yeah, I think really it's also on the actors because some of them were playing those obvious characters, and I believed it.
Right.
Then we watched episode 2, The Rooster Prince. What happened in that episode, Shanna?
Well, I won't go chronologically, but here's what's going on with the characters in episode 2. So there's 2 new characters in this episode, Mr. Wrench and Mr. Numbers. Mr. Wrench is deaf. I don't know if this is actually... I'm pretty sure he's not actually deaf because the sign language he does to... Mr. Numbers does to Mr. Wrench looks comical. And they are in town because Sam Hess was involved with this crime syndicate, and they're looking for the murderer of Sam Hess. So they do a little bit of investigating. They find an unfortunate patron that kind of matches Malvoy. Is that his name? Malvo. Okay, I keep on wanting to say Malfoy.
Steve Buscemi.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think he's more like the blonde guy from that movie. Never mind. Sorry.
Yeah.
But yeah, so they find this unfortunate guy that kind of matches the description, and they kill him anyway when they just figure out he's not the real guy just to keep him from going to the police. So in the first episode, this police chief was killed, pregnant wife, terrible story. Had this little, Molly Sal, what's her name? Molly.
I guess we never did say what happened.
Molly
really at the
Solverson?
end of that episode.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Played by Allison Tolman.
Yeah. Molly Solverson, she's being primed to be chief, but the guy who was priming her is dead. So now it goes by seniority, and this total incompetent police officer, played by Bob Odenkirk, hilariously.
Now I want you to center it.
Yeah. He's amazing in that character, but he is definitely not a great cop, and he's
Right.
promoted to chief. He kind of wants to believe that everybody's fine, everything's fine. He doesn't want to like investigate
Drifters.
too much. Yeah, it's
He wants-
definitely drifters, probably drug related. Doesn't want to investigate the Lester angle at all. And Molly is relentless. Well, and due to this relentless, attitude she has towards Lester, she's now relegated to investigating the very first thing we see in episode 1, which is Malvo's character driving off road with a guy with his underwear in the back. So that'll eventually hook up, I'm sure. In Duluth, Malvo is now Frank Peterson, a minister, and he meets with his new client, Stavros Milos.
The supermarket king.
Yeah. And Milos wants to know the origin of a ransom note that he's received. Malvo eventually figures out it's the personal trainer of his soon-to-be ex-wife. But he's more interested in the why than just doing the job.
Yeah.
So, and then we see a little bit of the Duluth Police Department, and Grimley, played by Colin Hanks, is just feeling sick about his decision to let Malvo go after he hears about the murders in Bemidji. That's too much, isn't it? That's
Perfect.
much.
That's
Okay.
perfect.
That's fun.
Do you guys know what the Rooster Prince refers to?
No, I do not. What does that refer to?
The head of the roosters.
So the Rooster Prince is an old parable about a prince who's put under a curse, and he starts to believe that he's a rooster. So he strips down naked, and he gets down off the kitchen table and goes under the table, starts eating his food by pecking at it on the floor. The king and queen bring all of their people in and try and find a way to cure him, talk to him, try and convince him, no, you're still a human. You're not a rooster. And none of it works. But eventually this old wise man shows up, and he says, I can cure your son. And so what the old wise man does is he strips down naked and gets under the table with the prince and starts pecking at his food. And then he turns to the boy, and after he's made friends with the boy, and the boy believes he's also a rooster, he says, it's perfectly normal for roosters to wear clothing and sit at the table. So the boy, still
Interesting.
believing that he's a rooster, puts the clothes back on and starts sitting at the table again. And eventually, over a period of time, he convinces the boy that he actually is a human boy.
Exactly how my parents got me to put clothes on.
Exactly. Yep.
I'm trying to think of where I see that in the episode. Can you think of any?
There are a lot of strange and foolish children in the episode.
That seems to be a theme of the show. There's a lot of idiot kids, like the supermarket guy, Sam Hess,
Buster Bluth.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Yep.
yeah, pretty much, and also the child of Lester's brother, Chaz.
So yeah, I don't see like a direct literal connection there, but
Right. I think I like and it sounded like that's kind of what they seem to be the focus of the seasons, like Lorne Malvo and Lester. Like, only Lorne's not trying to help him; he's dragging him down to his level.
exactly.
Saying,
That's exactly.
It's perfectly normal for unhappy people to murder people that bother them.
Yep.
Yeah, that sounds accurate.
We're all just animals, and
Right.
yeah,
So you guys like the episode?
I liked it a lot. And going
Yeah.
back, kind of like the dumb kid thing. It's another small town thing. Is
There's
you don't
a lot of dumb kids.
yeah, like
You have experience.
well, because they don't know anything else. They don't have anybody coming in to mix it up. So it's
Yeah.
just a little thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I personally like the episode a lot, just because that's when you're starting to see things start to ramp up a lot more. Like the first episode was a lot of setting up, like Lester as a kind of I'd say leaky dam kind of thing that's just begging to break. And then afterwards, it's kind of like the flood after the dam of him trying
Right.
to figure out what's like what.
Well, not quite yet, I wouldn't say. He's still being his mild-mannered self, trying to hide that he's committed this crime,
yeah,
Right.
walking away from the police officer and telling her that he feels harassed.
Right.
Yeah.
Watch your feet now.
leave
That's
poor.
such a good moment.
Oh, geez, just leave poor Lester alone.
I feel like I love watching Malvo. He's really interesting. The stuff that he does is interesting, but it does feel like they're doubling down on he's a sociopath. Look at all the sociopathic things he does.
Right.
Look at how he toys with people's pathos.
I thought it was interesting, and I wasn't sure what to make of it. How he's like sitting in his hotel room listening, like he's got a whole box full of tapes of people.
Yeah.
Which, judging from the one he was listening to of Lester, it's people he's manipulated into doing things. So, like, he just likes to listen to his
8-track.
victories over
Greatest hits.
over people.
Yeah.
I think
I was hoping for a little more though. It's like, okay,
Yeah.
all I really wonder is how far will he go?
Right.
There was never a scene like when Steve Buscemi goes and gets the prostitutes and has them come up. They do their thing and then watch TV together.
Was that
They didn't
Steve
have
Buscemi
that-
in this show or in the movie?
In the movie.
Okay.
Right. I thought that was a great scene that really gave depth to his character.
Right.
Showed that he's just kind of a low life
Right.
in
Yeah.
general.
Right.
But I like the character overall.
Yeah. There was the pace kind of was slowed down a little bit in this episode because we didn't have all these murders to get around
Yeah.
to. So I thought kind of just some of the like slice of Minnesota life stuff was like all there's hot dish everywhere, and
I'm
just
hungry
kind of
now.
these discussions about grape gum and
Yes.
one of the things I thought was just interesting when Molly was talking to the chief's widow at the house. It's just like they're there at this wake, and she's just like, "You remember that time my dad got shot?"
Yeah.
Just like this, really like, well, people have been murdered. There were 3 murders last night. How are you doing?
It's a lot of just talking because silence means there's something wrong is a lot of what it is. That's why you guys get mad at me because I kind of drone on quite a bit. But to me, it's like if there's no talking, then it's like it's awkward is what it is. And
Well, and I think it's more just the courtesy
Yeah.
and the just lack of. It's almost like it's just another day.
it's basically like that's how you can tell you're enjoying each other's company because you're having conversation. And if there's no conversation, then essentially what's happening is you're not enjoying the company anymore.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I see from it. Made me want to go back to Minnesota.
Well, and I like this episode a lot more than the first, just because I like the police dynamic, I think, a little bit better.
Right.
And they
Oh,
got
yeah.
rid of the super blatant characters that I didn't really enjoy all
Right.
that
Sam
much.
Hess is dead, and
And that was my biggest problem
London-
with the first
Kids are in the
episode.
hospital.
Nygaard's wife is dead. So
Yeah, so that I don't have to deal with as much. But one quote that I heard from Molly's father, who works at the diner, kind of
ex-cop.
ex-cop, it kind of reminded me of True Detective, and I think it kind of showed me why I'm not as into this series as maybe I should be. He says that, there's run-of-the-mill crimes, there's murders, there's robberies, there's all this, but then he says there's something else. There's savagery, slaughter, hatred devils with dead eyes and shark smiles, and I'm like, that's not what Fargo was really about. It was just a bunch of
Right.
self-interested
Yeah, that's
assholes.
that's
you know?
absolutely true. It reminds me of a quote from the original movie at the very end when they're driving away in the police car, and she says, "So that was Mrs. Lundegaard on the floor in there, and I guess that was your accomplice in the wood chipper, and those 3 people in Brainerd. And for what? A little bit of money. There's more to life than a little money, you know. Don't you know that?" And it was just that super quaint, oh, these are just idiots who messed up and caused a small situation to become this insane web of lies.
Just for money.
And it
not
wasn't
for-
it wasn't this guy who's going around pushing people's buttons trying to get them to turn into killers. It was 2 guys that were trying to make like $10,000 and get a free car out of the deal.
Right. Although, I mean, I guess kind of in that way, it's also highlighting too. This isn't an adaptation or a thematic sequel. It's just like, here's the color palette of Fargo.
Right.
Yeah.
Here's a different story we can paint with
Yeah,
those
well,
colors.
You're right. I don't want it to be the same thing.
yeah.
If they just redid the movie, what would be the point?
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, so
True.
I think kind of like what Molly's father was saying too, sort of like true in a sense for them because they're in this small town where probably nothing interesting ever happens, and now you've got what's obviously a organized system of killings happening, that's connected to possibly organized crime from Fargo and all this other this web of awfulness spinning out. So I mean,
Yeah.
in his context, even though it is relative or in a big picture sense not a particularly evil thing, in the context of the disruption to their small town, it's much more so.
I will say I'm very excited about where the show's going.
Me
I've seen
too.
these first 2 episodes 2.5 times now, so it's kind of
Oops.
having seen those, but nothing else afterwards
Right.
kind of makes it stand out what I didn't like more than what I did like.
Yeah.
But I'm really excited that now we're getting down to the core cast of Allison Tolman, Colin Hanks, Martin Freeman, Bob Odenkirk.
Yeah, I love all those actors.
This is a great cast.
I think Martin Freeman does such a good job, and
Exactly,
it really
yeah.
harkens back to William H. Macy's performance.
Definitely.
In a way that's not just blatantly ripping him off.
So
Right.
I'm really excited to see how they go about solving the case, all the stuff that's going to happen in between there.
Me too.
I can't wait for Frodo to bring the ring to Mordor.
Or Bilbo.
Bilbo.
You fool!
So I'm guessing Tank and Stitch both recommend it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm guessing Tank has some quotes and some other things he wants to say.
I do have a couple things. I've got a few Chekhovs that I found.
Okay.
Chekhov's youthful sense of justice from Colin Hanks' daughter.
Yeah.
Yes, from
And
Chekhov.
Chekhov's bronzer from the personal trainer.
Dennis.
So let me see.
Yeah, that's pretty
That
fantastic.
was a nice little surprise.
The kind of unrelated, but the post office attendant strongly reminded me of Jack Napier from not Jack Napier from Twin Peaks and Eraserhead and
Oh,
that
David
that
Lynch?
yeah, a bunch of David
Gotcha.
Lynch's stuff. The actor reminded me a lot of him. So
there was somewhere in the background of one of the episodes, there was a sign that said Daily Special White Russian.
yes, I wrote that down as well. It was in the first episode in the diner, which that was really good.
Nice.
Little nod there.
Mm-hmm.
Well, let's see. The advertisement outside of Colin Hanks' apartment for the mitzvah tank for all of your Jewish needs. Yeah, I mean that's a lot of what I got.
So did you check off your Chekhovs?
Oh,
I just wrote a lot of them down.
there you have it. I also definitely recommend the show. I'm
totally.
While I've complained quite a bit about it, I'm confident. Maybe wrongly so, maybe rightly so, but I'm confident. I have a very good feeling that it's going to get much better
Yeah.
and be very entertaining.
I know I have my complaints about the characters, but it's so well critically acclaimed. I can't really not keep it going. I want to see where it goes.
Yeah.
And honestly, the second episode was already an improvement from the blatancy I saw in the first. So I'm going to go with it, and I would recommend that other people watch it.
All right, excellent. In 2 weeks, we'll have our next episode where we will talk about episodes 3 and 4 of Fargo. Now it's time for Trope Talk. As you consume stories, you begin to identify literary devices, character archetypes, classic scenarios, and more. Whether it's the supervillain who explains his scheme to the hero after capturing him, the monster of the week formula of X-Files and Buffy, or the will they won't they sitcom pastiche. These patterns are collectively referred to as tropes. For our initial run, we will be discussing the basics. What's today's trope, Tank?
Well, as we've already brought up several times throughout this episode, it's Chekhov's gun.
No, we haven't brought that up.
No, but, no, never. No one's ever seen that happen before, and I thought it would come back to be significant again at a later point.
Chekhov's podcast title?
Exactly. I guess first, kind of the basics of Chekhov's gun. The reason it's called Chekhov's gun, it's from a playwright named Anton Chekhov. Has a famous quote on writing where he says, "Remove everything that has no relevance to the story." If you say in chapter 1 that there's a rifle hanging on the wall, in chapter 2 or 3 it absolutely must be fired. If it's not going to be used, it needs to not be there.
Which is sort of the law of conservation of detail.
Exactly. That's the fancier title for this trope. Basically, a writer has 42 minutes to tell you what he needs to tell you. He's not going to waste his time, with trivialities. If you see something, it's going to be important in some way. So that's called Chekhov's gun. Then there are kind of basically shows that have branched this trope off in different ways. So you'll have what TVTropes.com calls Chekhov's Armory, which is where a show is so full of guns that there's just no telling. They're everywhere. Every possible detail could be a Chekhov's gun, which leads to then Epileptic Trees, which is named for Lost, which is a show that has so many tropes and so many guns, so many Chekhov's gun, that people just start seeing them everywhere. It's named for the first season of Lost, where people thought that the trees were literally having epileptic fits because they were so used to there being small details hidden throughout the show that they started
That's
thinking,
crazy.
even the trees blowing in the wind, that's got to be something. And then the next part of Chekhov's gun would also be Chekhov's boomerang, which is where something, you see it, and then it comes back, and then it comes back again even later in a different way.
That's always nice.
Right.
Is that kind of like the Daleks in Doctor Who?
It could be.
That's just returning characters.
I guess kind of some good examples that would be like all of the Harry Potter books and movies are full of Chekhov's gun or Chekhov's classroom or Chekhov's magic spell, if you will.
Right.
Because in the
Chekhov's
beginning of the
magic
movie,
truth.
he's in class and he learns the magic spell that saves him at
Oh,
the
of
end of
course.
the movie.
Or Snape will threaten him with a truth serum that he's going to end up using on someone else
Or they're
later.
going to use a polyjuice potion that's going to be important in the next movie.
Yep.
Basically, it happens very, very heavily in that series.
There's some other great ones like Chekhov's grenade in The Walking Dead.
Right.
The first episode, Rick Grimes steals a grenade from a zombie that for some reason has one.
Right.
And then the season finale uses it to break through the blast-proof glass.
Exactly at the
CDC.
At the CDC. And then there's a few. There are some that they're not big ones because the trope's not necessarily got to be an overarching part of the plot. It can be something minor, like anytime you see somebody carrying a cake in a movie, you know that cake's going to get knocked out of their hands and it's going to fall on the ground.
Absolutely.
Or anytime you see an expensive vase in an antique shop, someone's going to bump into it, and then the hero's going to catch it and be like, "Oh, I saved it."
Mm-hmm.
Or like a fruit or cabbage cart or something like that. You know what's going to happen when you see those pieces laid out.
Yeah. It's there to be wrecked.
Exactly.
Yeah, I like that in Legend of Korra. The guy with the cabbages just constantly getting destroyed.
That's more an Avatar, the previous one.
Yeah,
but
that's true. Anyway.
There's one of my favorites was Chekhov's nuclear-powered giant robot in Pacific Rim. Just so happens that it was nuclear-powered because it was one of the Gen 1 robots.
Exactly.
And that saves the day at the end of the movie.
She's analog. It was a
that's,
hipster robot.
Reminds me of Battlestar. That's good.
Pacific Rim is a really good movie, and everyone should watch it.
Drunk.
Stone Cold Sober. It's legitimately one of my favorite movies.
So, Stitch, do you like Chekhov's gun? Do you have any times you've enjoyed the way it's used?
Not off the top of my head.
I think it's a great thing to do where you see a detail and you just write it off. You forget about it.
Right. Exactly.
It's almost like a twist in a way, but it's like a twist that's played straight.
Yeah. And it's definitely, it's practically synonymous with foreshadowing.
Yeah,
Especially, I mean,
definitely.
the more aware of it you become, like kind of as we were saying, like, I mean, that was one of the first notes I wrote down was Chekhov's fish poster.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, because they showed that fish poster that says, what does it say again?
What if you're
right
Yeah.
and they're wrong? And I'm like, that's going to mean something later. So
Yeah.
you kind of, the more you become aware of tropes like that, the more you'll start to notice
And
them.
I had to
and,
wonder about Chekhov's brother's illegal machine gun
Right.
as well.
That's not going to be significant ever.
Probably not.
No.
I think it also helps the audience a lot. It gets them more engaged and more involved because then they're kind of looking for like, oh, well, what's the meaning of this?
You're thinking about what they're showing you.
Yeah, and it's important for them to actually not just have it in the background or not just kind of sneak it by earlier where like, oh yeah, maybe a rewatch you notice it, but you want to either like before. Because then you get situations like Lost where everyone's always looking for something that could mean something.
Exactly.
One of the nice things about using that trope is it tells the audience that yes, as a writer, we are doing our homework.
Right.
We're not just pulling stuff out of a hat at the last minute.
Right. Or kind of, especially in the case of Lost. I mean, well, that show went off the rails in later years, especially for like the first few seasons where you would see something in episode 25 that had been hinted at in episode 1.
Exactly.
So.
And I don't want to give like spoilers out too much, but Breaking Bad used this device
Oh, yeah.
heavily.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Heavily.
We could
Use
spend half an
Chekhov's.
hour just talking about all the times
Yeah.
they used it.
Yeah.
I
And
mean,
then, you've got Chekhov's clock tower in Back to the Future.
Absolutely.
Chekhov's mostly empty matchbox in The Fifth Element,
Right.
which Tank, one of his favorite movies.
That's a good movie.
Such a good movie. So very good.
it's just a way to. It's just a way, like a modern way to simplify something to break it down into a way where most people out there can digest it.
Yeah.
Right.
And instead of just like having like, oh well, you have to figure it out yourself. I don't want to figure it out myself. Just show me something, and then whenever you bring it out later, I'm like, oh, cool. So
Right.
that's what that was about.
Exactly.
And it's not an incredibly complex trope, but it's
Right.
sort of one of the essential tropes that you need to understand.
Right.
Because
And
we're
it's-
going to be hard.
It's
We're going to be hard
everywhere.
pressed to get through one episode of the show not mentioning
Exactly.
a Chekhov's gun
and
scenario.
foreshadowing is one of the central narrative devices that any writer uses.
Yeah.
So it's literally in every story that's
Well,
ever been
Yeah,
told.
and I just rewatched. This is not a movie podcast, so I should
Go ahead.
bring it up. Interstellar has a pretty good Chekhov's gun in it. So
Yeah.
I mean, it just I
Chekhov's
can't even or watch whatever
Yeah. Yep.
But I don't know. It's just everywhere. I can't think of
Yeah.
a series that hasn't used it.
It's a mechanical structure that works.
Yeah.
That's why it's
Definitely.
used. So
So that's Chekhov's gun. This is not the last time you've heard us talk about it,
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure. But that's the end of Trope Talk.
Chekhov's Trope Talk.
And now it's time for Bad Show Bingo. All right, she's rolling the wheel. What episode of what show are we going to have to watch?
Please don't be mine.
All right, we've got B2, which is Clarissa Explains It All.
Oh.
The 90s.
Woo!
Oh, man, this intro. Oh, my God. Oh, she dodged the car.
I'm having
I should just bump.
I'm
through her
having
name.
really bad
Oh,
flash.
look at that kid. Oh, Jason Zimbler.
I know, this takes me back like crazy.
Yeah, this takes me back where, again, it's something
Oh, she
like,
made him disappear.
where it's something where...
Hold on.
Way cool. All right, you can now cope with this.
Yeah. Woo! Wow, that was...
Who indeed?
So, we couldn't watch Clarissa Explains It All.
For pain reasons.
Either the fates were against us, or it was a little al dente. You tried falling into the
I don't think
That's
that's
a good joke.
moral.
What is this show about? What is happening?
There is a plot.
Is she at ESP
They're
or
now-
are they in the lottery?
They're now going
Or-
to use their psychic
I
powers
think
to
we
win the
missed
lottery.
it.
Oh,
Yeah, it was
we lost.
There
It
wasn't
was-
enough to make fun of. It was just a shit
It was
show.
just a generic show.
I think it was more there was too much to make fun of that it all blended together into a paste gruel.
Right.
awful-
No, I feel like there's no point to the show. It's just to waste 25 minutes of a kid's life.
Yeah. I was about to say, how did television survive that? And then I remembered what we ended up watching, and I realized
Yeah.
it didn't.
So what we watched instead
didn't.
was Dog with a Blog. We watched the Christmas special.
Stan Steele's Christmas. Paul Blog.
All blog.
Oh, yeah, that is
Christmas
that's like
Eve day, the kids
the same
scurried
technology
around,
they used for,
inspecting their
Babe
gifts that sat wrapped
for
on
the
the
lip
ground.
sync on the
They
internet.
prodded and poked them and hoped they weren't junky. Tyler shook his around like a less clever monkey. Guys, Christmas isn't about presents. It's about being together.
Boy, what a great program.
So the plot of the episode was
I don't know.
it was Christmas and
There's a dog.
the dog
He's got a blog.
who has a blog, apparently,
He can talk too,
he talks but some people hear him and some people don't.
but not the adults.
So he decided that the kids were not grateful enough for their gifts, and I heard that he wanted to teach them the true meaning of Christmas, is what I
Right.
heard. So he took all their presents and hid them.
The true meaning of Christmas.
How he did that?
Dog magic.
Well, how does he type? That's the other. real
It's the
question.
same mechanism he uses for typing and blogging.
He's got to get a hold of strong bed, and he'll tell you.
It's Joe the elf.
Joe, oh, good old Joe the elf. Oh, he's hiding his.
He got a ringer.
Joe.
Wow.
Is Joe the light? Joe the fox? Joe the elf? Joe the elf. He's my little helper, passing along his workshop know-how and spreading his elfa magic.
Cannot see how you're doing.
Clarissa and Dog with a Blog.
I feel like it explains a lot.
Did you pick up on a trend like I did?
They're both bad.
I got the impression that
Vacuousness?
like these shows on Disney and Nick
It's
from
almost
both generations,
Right.
it feels like they just did one pass on the script.
It's almost like there's some sort of like assembly line factory floor where they're just
Right.
Because
Wouldn't it be
presidents,
funny
man.
if Mom thought you wanted a tablet of paper instead of a tablet computer?
That's an easy mistake to make.
tablet computer.
No, Tyler.
Yeah, I liked that episode. I liked how wasted the mother seemed.
She was
Like
super
just
drunk.
completely
Oh, yeah.
loopy and just not.
crispy duck the halls.
Good tidings, one, Ellen.
She is drunk.
I miss the old sitcoms where the parents were actually smart because parents are actually
All right.
Well,
smart.
there's two classes of sitcoms. There's the type of sitcom you see on Nickelodeon or Disney, and then there's like a even like less shitty
But
sitcom
that was
you see on
I mean,
network
that was
television.
You've got your like pre-married with children parents, and then your post-married with children parents.
Yeah.
Sure.
But
But
was like that was where that break happened.
But I feel like this was excessive, like to the point where like even Clarissa's parents were not as obnoxious and loopy as this show. This show was like,
Which is why we watched this show.
I mean, the dad was buying scam skin cream from his.
those were some terrible.
I don't think I'm
hands,
interested, Ferguson.
because you can't
Take this
straighten
10-day trial sample. It'll make you look 15
Classic
years
90s
younger.
can't
No
cover up the
obligation.
belly.
Why don't you
With
try
your
it,
shirt.
Nerd Face? If it makes you look 15 years younger, you won't exist.
Go ahead and laugh.
For me, it just feels like they couldn't be troubled to go back and rewrite jokes
Right.
and make them work.
Right.
It's like everything we talked about the law of conservation of detail
Yeah.
is thrown out by these shows.
Yeah.
For them, it's all about how many pages do we need to write
I
to
need
fill
23
22
pages. Yeah.
minutes, 23 minutes.
Berg Face, get down here! Special delivery! What is it? Collection notice from Mary Lou Cosmetics. Is
Is this a thinly veiled Mary Kay?
Oh,
Yeah.
definitely.
I think it is. That was rough.
Real rough.
Started out trying to
Rough,
watch.
that's a good pun.
Yeah, like a dog.
With
Rough.
a blog.
That's like a joke they probably have said in the show.
Oh,
This-
I'm sure.
This is definitely a show that came up with the name before they came up with the
Right.
with the actual.
That's like
Oh,
the
yeah.
whole. That's the whole thing with Disney. It seems like.
That's kind of like that trend a few years ago of shows based on Twitter hashtags and stuff like
Oh
that.
yeah, like shit my dad says. or-
Right.
Oh my
Did
god.
that ever take off?
Girls
I have not-
Upstairs or whatever
Yeah.
it was.
Yeah.
Not impressed.
Yeah, I feel real
So,
bad right
Did
now.
you guys enjoy watching those shows?
No.
Not even a little bit. And usually I like the so bad it's good aspect.
You know what? That was very difficult to get through.
It was.
I'm
It makes
tired.
me miss watching.
Clarissa?
Not Clarissa. No, not Clarissa.
My
We
mother in
could-
the car.
Sabrina.
It makes you appreciate. That's actually.
I do. I
there's
appreciate
some
Sabrina.
Funny stuff in there.
And
I mean,
Sabrina was
Sabrina
so
was
much-
prime time too. I mean,
That's true.
Sabrina
That- you
wasn't
know
a
what?
Disney
Sure, it's
Channel.
TGIF.
Also, we
was-
also watched the Christmas special. Which
Yeah. Well, those
was-
are usually pretty bad.
Yeah. I mean,
So it's a good place to start. I think when this episode comes out, we're also going to release the Sabrina
I think that's
episode as
a good
well.
move.
It was just something we did raw.
Mhm.
We didn't even have the recording equipment set up to be really good quality. So it's not going to be great, but I think you'll enjoy it. And you'll
Mhm.
see how much more enthusiastic we were about that piece
Right.
of crap show than these ones.
yeah,
That
the
was a piece of
comparison
crap show.
alone,
What's that?
That was a really bad show.
It really was.
but not. I mean, not nearly as bad as what we just watched.
Yeah.
It was
That
pretty
those were
bad.
truly terrible shows that we watched.
oh man, we
today.
could watch season 3, episode 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
Yeah, I
And
don't
it's
think
only
we need to...
it's only 2 hours and 1 minute of Dog with a Blog.
I think I click on that and then just pick a random point and let's
Don't
watch
actually
20,
click.
Don't
20
do it.
seconds.
I'm
No.
just. Let's just pick.
Just-
I'm just gonna.
Be reptiles.
Reptiles. It's like a joke.
Oh, that's fun. I'm Lindsay.
Please stop.
And I'm Max. Big cyborg fan. If you want to keep me as a pet after you guys take over, I'm totally cool with that.
Okay, we should cut it right there.
What's happening? What's even happening?
I think they think that little girl's a robot.
Okay, let's okay.
Let's also just process that line. Big cyborg fan, you can keep me as a pet if you want.
Oh.
When you take over, this is a children's television program.
Are you also sure like she's not in a band or something?
I think
No.
they think she's
Based on how
literally a
she said it,
robot.
it felt like a play on
I mean,
I,
guess
for one, welcome our new cyborg.
our ant overlords.
Right.
Just striking for the moon, I
Right.
guess.
I wonder if this show is like a punishment for writers when they're doing too bad.
No,
and
this is... No, actually, you're
Jimmy,
right.
you were late for work 6 times. Go to the dog with a blog office.
Yeah, I think Disney is purgatory for writers.
Right.
It's the ABC writers who...
Well, Disney
didn't-
Channel.
Sure, Disney Channel. That's what I meant to say. Sorry. But it's the people who couldn't write a good enough script for Big Bang Theory or whatever
Right.
show, whatever other show is on ABC. They just send them over to Disney. They're
It's like, really? You couldn't write something for Big Bang Theory? That's it. Dog on the blog.
Watch Big Bang Theory after this. I think
would
you'll be
fire
impressed.
you, but your uncle is my boss.
Yeah. So it's purgatory for writers.
Or maybe it's like the boss's kid was like, I got an idea, Dad. I got an idea. How about Dog with a Blog?
You know what kind of drink ninjas like?
Hey!
Karate.
You know what? High five.
Good reference. From episode 2.
We could dub in a high five sound there. From episode 2 of Fargo with Buster Bluth there.
That's right. Tying it all back in together. And I think that's the perfect way to end this segment.
Okay.
I'm so tired.
That's episode 1 of the Fool's Lantern podcast. I apologize for how haphazardly the show has gone.
We'll get better.
We will get better. Absolutely. I hope you enjoy it. And we'll see you in 2 weeks.
I'm going to go watch the rest of the show and hate myself.
Karate.
Bye.
Oh.
There are some days that look so bright.
There are some lies that seem so dark.
How could you walk against the wind?
How could you stop to look around?
You never know which road to take.
One never knows which way goes down.
Will you get backwards to the shore?
Are you ready for the fight?
There are some things you cannot change.
There are some ways you cannot play.
There are some thoughts you cannot take.
Our intro theme, the Gypsy Song, was made available via Creative Commons by the Freak Fandango Orchestra.
The newspaper ticker sound effect was made available by Mike Koenig via the Creative Commons Attribution License. And our showcase theme, the song Booga Blue, was made available by the U.S. Army Blues via Creative Commons Attribution License.
We should watch The Sex Monster.
What?
The Sex
I looked
Monster.
at for the writer of the episode we just watched.
The writer of the episode
I
we
thought
just
that was
watched
an episode of Dog with a
made
Blog.
something called The Sex Monster.
She was miscellaneous crew.
Oh,
And the set.
I'm
she
sorry.
was a set production assistant.
I thought that
Click
the
on-
Sex
click on the
Monster
Sex
was an
Monster. What is
episode
that?
of Dog with a Blog. For a second. I was like, we have to watch that.
This looks terrible.
Marty Barnes gets more than he wishes for when he asks his wife to join him in a menage a
I'm
trois.
not sure how it's pronounced.
She loves it, and he has to create a sex monster.
Menage a trois?
What?
She loves it, and he has created.
Full
Oh, I'm
movie-
sorry.
The full movie is on.
I do
oh.
like to.
I want what I said more than that. She loves it, so he goes to his lab and makes a sex monster.
I would
that
watch
would be
that.
good.
Let's make that. Let's
I don't know about good,
That
but
sounds
I'd
terrifying.
watch it.
let's draft that. We'll have a treatment ready for next
Yeah.
episode.
Absolutely.